So I really think, when you said, what do I do best? I get people to think. And hopefully I get people to take themselves a little bit less seriously, because I'm thoroughly convinced when you look at businesses and professional sports teams, the ones that are more lighthearted, having fun, are getting better results.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Ray Allen.
On this episode of the Marketing Expedition Podcast, I get to speak with Larry Mietus, and he is the Chief Excuse Obliterator CEO, and he's the founder of Speaking of Strategy. He's an engaging speaker, business consultant, author, podcaster, and educator with a wealth of practical hands-on experience. And with his expertise encompassing leadership development, organizational design, employee engagement, and sales and marketing strategies, his clients run the gamut from the mom and pop businesses to international enterprises. And he is a frequent contributor on LinkedIn. Larry's also been quoted in HR Magazine, the most widely read and respected human resource publication in the world. And he is a guest speaker for Vistage International, the world's largest executive coaching organization. And Larry's the author of We Tried That Once and other popular excuses that sabotage business success. So we're going to talk all about these wonderful things that he has regarding culture and strategy and pursuing passion. And of course, his book, We Tried That Once, and go into that. But first, it's time for your Marketing Essentials moment, the basics that you need to help you continue to build your brand and your bottom line. Okay, this is part 2 of the Marketing Essential Moment. We are talking about knowing what to expect as a client if you're working with an agency. So client expectations and things that we do to help make sure the agency-client relationship is healthy and happy and doing all the things that we want it to do, right? So last time we talked a lot about just understanding what to expect in working with an agency. Now I want to kind of dig into a little bit more as we talk about client expectations and what it's like to work with an agency and making sure that you're getting the desired results from your agency or from us if you're working with us. So often the communication or misunderstandings can happen. And I just want to do this to help clear up any of those questions that you might have and what it's like to work with an agency. And maybe you are currently working with an agency or you're thinking about doing work with an agency, whether you're in the DIY, do-it-yourself phase or the done with you or done for you phase of your business. We like to our sweet spot is right there in the done with you and done for you phase. But we also, of course, have the Marketing Expedition community for those who are still in the do it yourself phase. So of course you can go to themarketingexpedition.com and get all kinds of trainings and watch the videos. And even if you are already working with an agency, you're going to learn a lot with the Marketing Expedition community. So there's something in there for everyone with all of our keynote speaker addresses recorded and articles and downloadables and just fun things that you can lean and glean from. So learn and glean from, easy for me to say. All right, so let's dig in a little bit more about what it's like to be a client working with an agency and just thinking about what those client expectations are around thinking through project and campaign success. So we first always want to identify what the campaign successes are. And again, thinking with the end in mind, I mentioned this last time, but understanding what kind of measurable outcomes are we looking for? What does success look like? And sometimes they're quantitative and sometimes they're qualitative, right? Either we can assign numbers to them or maybe it's sentiment scoring, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend this client again, right? Or this product or this service? Are you thinking about sentiments, or is it hot, positive, happy, or there's some, maybe some reputation management issues that we need to address? But looking at the data and all the things that we can track as much as we can, because there are things in branding that are really difficult to track because of the nature of what we're doing. We're building awareness, right? And there's lots of different things we can do to help us understand if that awareness campaign is working by asking lots of good questions, doing some surveys, doing some focus groups, those types of things. But bridging that gap between the desired results and outcomes can sometimes get misaligned. So my role here and my goal here is to share the best ways to think about how you can align your vision as a client in working with the agency that you're working with, whether it's us or another one, and how you can continuously make sure that you're on the same page, that your strategies are getting executed and with realistic timeframes and goals that will help then cultivate those really good results that you're after, right? Those desired results that we're after. One of the things that we do is we have a scorecard that allows us to keep track of our goals. And we can track a number of different things as our KPIs. I like to call them kept promise indicators. And we've developed over the years this ability to have this scorecard. We just use it as a Google shared doc. So that way people, I guess it's a Google shared sheets, I should say, on Google Drive. So we can do that. And that way people can access it if needed. There's lots of other dashboards that we can also pay for. But because we're already Google Workspace users, it's nice to be able to use this and not have to charge clients for the dashboards that we could otherwise build out and do. And then we can connect some good information for using Google Looker Studio to connect information as needed. And some of it can be done in real time. And we do some integrations utilizing Zapier. I think it's zapping those two together. And some of them already are built in with integration, which is quite nice. So we use those either dashboards or scorecards. People call them many different things, but ways to track and measure what we treasure. And I say measure what we treasure, dump what we don't, automate what we hate, and delegate to elevate. So there you go. But then, okay, let's look at what success is to us and what kinds of things are we wanting to track that's going to make success happen. So, whether that's engagement or the number of leads that you receive or the number of phone calls that you're able to make or, click-throughs and conversions. And there's a whole library full of different KPIs that we can track. In fact, I think you can even go to kpilibraries.org or .com and just get a whole bunch of different ideas of ways that you can track all of the measurables that you can. So scorecard is really a great way for us to manage our expectations of what's working, what's not, what we want to dump, what we don't. And then another thing is, okay, basing the success on specific outcomes that we identify together. What is it that we specifically want to have happen? And I mentioned last time, are we driving traffic to a website? Are we building our email lists? Are we, there's so many different things that we can track, right? What is it specifically that we want to do? Are we, when in the hospitality industry, it's always heads and beds and butts and seats, right? We want to see how many hotel rooms are getting booked out, how many tickets are being sold. And so are those the things that we're looking at to measure? Are we, driving other foot traffic to a destination location? Are we building reputation? Are we building awareness? Are we, what is it that we're truly trying to do? And reach out to me and I can always give you a whole plethora of ways to, and so many different things that we track on the regular with our clients. So think about that. And then the next thing that I wanted to dig into too is, okay, milestones, right? And deadlines. We follow the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System and everything's done in 90 days or for the year. What can we do? We have the whole overall goal for the year and then 90 days and then, weekly, what is it that we're doing? Or in some cases with our clients, depending on budget, we're bi-weekly or we're monthly based on what their meeting cadence needs to be. So thinking about, okay, when are those trigger points going to happen? Is it going to be, 6 months, quarterly, a year? What is it? And I always try to make sure that our clients' expectations are met, that you're not going to have results overnight, right? We have to do the learning phase and understanding and doing the iterations and understanding what's going to work and what's not. And then we can do full throttle once we've got it dialed in, right? And so expecting results in a very short time frame is is damaging to what we could do potentially even better, because we have to take that time to learn and understand what is working, what's not, and monitoring those metrics and seeing what is going to stick and be the best formula for your marketing campaign and strategy. And sometimes we have to pivot. Sometimes we all have the best intentions, and I'm not going to lie, sometimes it doesn't always work out. And that's marketing, right? You don't know until you try. And if you don't try, then you're never going to know what is going to work. And so I always try to set client expectations to say that, as soon as we start doing advertising, we're going to be testing things out and seeing how it's going. We're going to be adjusting things as needed. We're wanting to change the ad copy so that we don't get ad fatigue after a month's time. We're going to be looking at the different target demographics and interests and geographic regions. We're going to be looking at all of those things as we build out your campaigns, right? So it does take some time, and you want that to happen, because if we rush into it and just go spend a whole bunch of money without having any iterations or testing, it's going to be a waste of your money. So really, you do want to have spend that time. That's going to be so critical for the learning phase. So there's that. And then, of course, setting realistic goals. Client expectations. Sometimes clients expect the world, and we have to kind of make sure that they understand what's realistic. And that's so important too. And, the whole adage of overpromise, underdeliver, or, that whole thing, we don't want that. We want to be able to overdeliver and underpromise. But that doesn't always mean that we are just going to, set it up to where it's not going to be realistic, right? So just thinking about how we can maintain that and understand what those realistic goals truly can be based on their research, the R&D that we're doing, the due diligence, the discovery that we are making on your behalf. Other things that we can take a look at as we do this is understanding how much education and awareness your clients need versus, okay, are they ready to buy, and where are they at in the whole funnel of what it is that what they're doing, and based on what your goals are and who we want to, make sure that, what we're doing in launching is going to be successful, and what is happening with that, because sometimes behavior can be tricky to try to always measure, right? So we need to understand what your customer behavior is and understand what is triggering them to want to purchase or buy or share and tell all about you. So we have to find a way to make sure that the behavior is in alignment with what we want them to specifically do. If it's a call to action, or we want them to, donate, or we want them to buy something, or we want them to, go to an event, whatever that action is, we want to make sure that the behavior of what we are wanting them to do is actually what's in alignment with what we are wanting to accomplish. And sometimes we can have some happy surprises, right? And do more of what's happy surprises, because that sometimes does occur, and that's a good thing. But on the flip side, sometimes things that we predict and all the research and data that we show and share doesn't always happen, because things happen in the industry or in the marketplace or in the world that can disrupt what we want them to do. So we're constantly looking at the shifts in customer behavior and how it's working and what people are doing and how they're doing it and how they're getting, to purchase from you specifically. We always use SMARTer goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-based, ethical, and recorded. So SMARTer goals, right? We want to understand what those goals are when we are looking at our rocks. We call them the rocks, or the big goals, for the year, and then for the quarter, and then the little pebbles or the little milestones that we need to make in getting those specific, achievable or attainable, relevant or realistic, time-bound, ethical, right? We want to have ethics in advertising for sure. Doing the right thing, even when no one else is looking. Anyway, I'll just keep going through my list of things I wanted to chat and continue on here. But the SMARTer goals, and then thinking about, okay, how do we work backwards from the desired outcome? Thinking with the end in mind. It's a Stephen Covey, sentiment there, the 7 habits of highly effective people. Think with the end in mind. What is it that we want to do, and how do we have a path backwards from, where the end result is, and what do we want to identify as the critical moments in the campaign, like we said, the milestones, or the things that are going to trigger, or performance-based triggers that will then maybe unleash more budget because we've hit those milestones. So thinking about what those are and how we're going to be able to then trigger that to be able to spend more money if we can, and reprioritize because we have more to spend, which is always a good thing. And if not, then what do we need to do? Sometimes we have to cut stuff because it's just not what, the budget, or some thing that happens that's out of our control, happens, like a pandemic, for example. We really had to do that whole pandemic pivoting during that time frame, and adjust things as we could. But just thinking through that and asking questions along the way, right? Asking smart questions, understanding, especially at the beginning of our relationship and our partnership, having that mutual understanding of those results that we want, and shifting any misalignments that we may have, or maybe new discoveries that come because of a result of what the new goals might end up being because of a shift, or because of a pivot, right? So what are the benchmarks? What can we start with now to start as a base for the metrics that we can continue to lean on and rely on for us to know and make educated database decisions, and be able to assess the situation because of the data that we're gathering. So the other thing that I can really recommend to you is understanding the importance of getting quality data to us, and how we can measure that and track that as much as we possibly can. And working with us on that. Sometimes clients just want to hoard that information, don't want to share with us for whatever reason. I don't know why, because it doesn't do them any good to do that. But if we can know what's working, what kind of things are pushing your revenue higher, what's moving the needle, then that helps us, and it fuels our ability to do more of what is working, because we can track that with you. And then, of course, those like aligning those tangible metrics with the objectives that we set out together, then will help us in making those, producing those results, and continuously making more progress, and continuously upgrading and doing more to continuously tailor the needs that are needed as we go into your market, into your industry, into the local or regional or national space that we want to be in. Okay, I'm going to keep going and keep listening. So I have more things about what to expect in working with agencies and what that looks like for you. And we'll do that next time. But now it's time for your interview. Welcome to the Marketing Expedition podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today's guest, we have Larry Mietus. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Ray, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So Larry, let's tell people a little bit more about how you got into what you do now as the Chief Excuse Obliterator.
CEO, yes, I'm probably halfway through the legal process of trademarking that
Nice.
little moniker. So far so good. No one's objected. How did I get to where I am? Well, it all started in kindergarten. No.
Yep.
I was in corporate America for a long, long time. And really, when I look at my history of work, I was really fortunate to have 95% jobs that I loved. I can think of maybe 2 jobs in my entire career where I broke out in hives. I couldn't be there and quit in 2 days. But every other job was phenomenal. But I've always had a servant leadership mentality. And I've always had a penchant for trying to connect people. And I've always just been happy to try to help people solve their challenges or get them to think from a different perspective. So after many, many years in different corporate roles, I went to work for a consulting firm. And I was there about 4 years. And then one day I thought to myself, maybe I should just be doing this on my own. Mm-hmm. So I consulted some of my attorney friends, and they said, everything you do is in your head. It's all intellectual property. your ideas, your thoughts, your solutions. There's no real estate involved. There's no computers involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just go out and do this. And my wife, God bless her, my best friend, soulmate, love of my life, I looked at her and I said, I think I'm going to quit my real job and be self-employed. And she looked at me and she said, well, you've never not done what you said you're going to do.
Nice.
So go and do this.
So be a man of your
And
word and now make it happen. Good.
yeah, and that
Good
was
for you.
15 years ago.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I like to connect people. I like to make my network of resources available to
Mhm.
people, but I like to help people really maximize their business production, but really increase their happiness. There are just so many miserable people at work, uh, all over the planet, and I look at that every day, and especially here in North America, Ray, you know this.
Mhm.
We don't do anything more than we work. We don't sleep more. We don't eat more. We don't go on vacation more. So I
Mhm.
look at people who are miserable and go, boy, I really feel sorry for you. We've either got to fix that thing you call work, or you've got to find another place to be because it's torture.
Right.
Um, so when I can make those things happen, it's a good day for me.
Nice. Yeah, we don't want people showing up to work and getting, in hives and anxiety, and that's no fun. No fun at
Yeah.
all. So tell me what you've been doing for the last 15 years then to serve the people that you serve. Tell me kind of the journey that you've gone through and what it is that you do now best.
Well, I when I go into a lot of organizations, as much as I like to talk, I try not to speak. I just try to observe. But I
Mhm.
try to observe all people in all departments, on all shifts, look at body language. Are people happy? Are they smiling? Are they whistling? As basic as it sounds. Is there a little, spring in their step? Or are their chins dragging on the floor and they're miserable and they're looking at the clock, waiting to see when they're going to punch out? And then, I try to get to the cause of what's happening. And really, I have two types of clients. Probably half my clients, Ray, are companies that are doing really well, but just want to do incrementally a little bit better, but
Mhm.
they're sort of stuck in their ways. And I look at those companies and I say, look, you're in the forest every day with the trees. You're walking into trees because you've been in the forest so long, you don't know that they're trees. I'm flying over the forest in my little consulting helicopter, and I'm yelling, hey, Ray, stop walking. You're going to walk into a tree. But if you turn 2 degrees and maybe tried this path or this thought or this process, maybe there'd be a different result. And the other half of my clients really have a problem, and probably half of that half know what it is but can't fix
Mhm.
it, and the
Right.
other half don't know what it is, and they're just so frustrated. And to be honest with you, since we came out of the pandemic, I get a lot of calls from companies who say exactly that. It's not the same as it was pre-pandemic. We can't get our arms around why. We feel like we're just spinning the wheel,
Mhm.
stuck in the mud. Can you help us move forward? And I meet a lot of business owners who have that feeling and that sentiment. They want to do better and they can't. They're glad they survived. They're hanging on, but it's not getting easier. It's not getting better. It's not getting more fun. And sort of they've lost. I guess I'll call it that entrepreneurial spark. And I deal with entrepreneurs 6 days a week. And I
Right.
always look at people and say, look, Ray, did you go into business on your own so you could be miserable, work 90 hours a week, ruin your personal life, and have no friends?
What? Of
And
course.
everybody
Why would
goes,
you do that?
no, that's not what I wanted. And I'm like, but that's the life you're living. So
Mhm.
how do we get back to what you envisioned? How do we get back to you working 30 hours a week, having the time of your life, having a company full of people that you've empowered, that you trust,
Mhm.
being at least profitable? It doesn't have to be wildly profitable, but you're not losing money. How do we get there? And how do we get your fire back and your passion back for what you do for a living? Um, what do I do best? I've had a lot of clients over the years tell me that I'm just the voice of reason.
Mm.
My solutions, my suggestions aren't outlandish. They're usually practical. On many days, they're usually very affordable. I try to be a pragmatic thinker and you know strategist.
Mhm.
And even though the name of my company is Speaking of Strategy, strategy is a word that scares people. And I say, look, strategy is a plan that's written in sand. It's not concrete anymore. It's not even rubber. It's sand. Because if we
Right.
learned anything in the last 4, 5, 6 years, is that the whole world can change overnight and turn on a dime.
Just with one wash of the waves on the ocean can wipe it all away. Yep, I can relate to that.
Instantaneously.
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing I say, and I hope I never offend anybody when I say this, but I usually look at most of my clients and say, look, we're not launching missiles.
Mhm.
We're not going to destroy the universe. If we make a mistake, if something doesn't go according to plan, as long as we keep our heads on straight, we can strategize, we can rebound, we can turn. So
Mhm.
relax a little bit, because the history of the future of the universe is not hinged on some of the decisions that are going to be made under the roof of their company. And
Mhm.
I really get people to just, try to work better, try to work smarter, try to have better, healthier relationships,
Mhm.
know when to step aside as a leader. I'll tell you this. I think the number one thing I teach my leaders to do is to move the barriers that are keeping their people from being wildly successful. Everything else you've hired people to do. Leaders should lead, managers should manage, and that's not a diss on managers. But what we find in a lot of companies is that the leaders, the owners, were once managers, and that's not always the best recipe. Now, sometimes it's by default because there aren't people ready, willing, and able to step up. Sometimes it's by DNA because 85% of the businesses in North America are family owned businesses. But that doesn't always make it right. It doesn't always make it practical. So I'm kind of that guy looking under every rock going, what if, how come, why won't we, when did you, which is really the genesis of my book. The number one excuse I hear all the time from business people is, oh, we tried that once. And then they just gave up. They walked away. There's no history. There's no notes. There's no recollection of what went wrong. There's just a lot of assumptions and a quick, oh, let's give up. It didn't work.
Mhm.
So I really think, when you said, what do I do best? I get people to think. And hopefully I get people to take themselves a little bit less seriously, because I'm thoroughly convinced when you look at businesses and professional sports teams, the ones that are more lighthearted, having fun, are getting better results.
So when you go through this process, what do you do with them? Do you meet weekly? Do you go into their business? I mean, physically there, or kind of share a little bit more about what it is that you kind of do in your
Well,
process?
I do both. I try to interview, like I said, I try to meet everyone in an organization. I mean, I was in a steel plant one time at 3 o'clock in the morning, noon, 8 a.m. to meet every shift and just talk to people and say, what's on your mind? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you concerned about? Because the
Mm.
people know. Sometimes owners go, oh, they're just employees. They don't know. They know things before the owner knows. If you go to the
Mhm.
bathroom for a week and there's no toilet paper, you know something's going on, okay? Maybe there's no cash flow. Maybe there's no
Right.
money in the bank. If
Mhm.
the fourth paycheck bounces every week, you know something's going on.
Oh
So,
boy. Yeah.
I'm not a prescribed type of consultant. I don't walk in and go, we do A, we do B, we do C. I look at every company differently because they tend to have the similar problems, but they have unique personalities attached and unique histories, unique cultures, unique politics attached to their company and their business. And that's what differentiates them from other organizations. So I do a
Right.
lot of interviewing. I talk to a lot of people about, you know, what they used to do, what they do now, what they want to do in the future, perhaps if they're staying in the same company. Probably the best question I ask, one of the most powerful questions I ask people is, no matter what your position is in the company, if you were in charge, if you own the company and you had no partners and all of this rested on your shoulders, what would you do differently?
Mm.
And
Mhm.
boy, people have ideas. Everyone has ideas. The other
Right.
question I like to ask, sometimes I ask prospect business people when I meet them, at a networking event or over a cup of coffee, I'll say, Ray, look over your shoulder at the success of your business. And in percentage terms, tell me what percentage of your business's success has been based on luck and what percentage of your success has been based on strategy. They usually laugh and look at me and go, boy, I've been really lucky. What would happen if I had some strategy? And
Mhm.
that's the beginning of the dance.
Right. So when you've done some of this work with the clients you've mentioned before, tell me maybe a success story or something that occurred because of your work with them. What happened?
Well, I've got one client in particular in the healthcare industry that at one time had four owners, four partners.
Uh-huh.
We've got that down to one,
Oh.
and we help people exit gracefully, strategically, financially sound. Because even in the medical world, things have changed. 20,
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago, a doctor would buy into a practice, front money, generate revenue, get to a point in her or his career where they wanted to retire, and sell their shares or their ownership percentage to a junior doctor. Medical doesn't really work that way anymore. A
Right.
lot of practitioners are just closing the doors, turning off the lights, and going home. Um, Same client I can think of got them to understand much better what's an income statement, what's a cash flow, what's a balance sheet, what are strategic moves with my money. I'm not a financial planner, I'm not a lawyer, but
Mm-hmm.
again, common sense. You look at trends, 13-month rolling numbers, what happened last July, what's going to happen this July, what's in your control, what's beyond your control. um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the client I'm thinking about now has the best profitability they've ever had in 30 years, and probably the highest level of happiness and the best retention they've ever had. No one's leaving on the staff.
Good.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
a fun place to be. It allows other things to happen. I've helped other clients launch brand new products, create silos in the marketplace, which is super exciting. As a marketing person, you know that
Yeah.
when you think, what am I going to call it? What are the PMS colors going to be? What's the tagline going to be? Who's the target market? What are we going to say to them? When are we going to say it? How are we going to say it? What media are we going to use? And, let's go out and talk to the world and ask them, would you buy this? What would you pay for it? Those are fun projects too. And quite honestly, sometimes businesses with multiple streams of revenue, maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 streams of revenue,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just very rewarding to go in and figure out which one or two revenue streams are hurting the company and carving those out and selling off those lines of business or shutting down those operations, just so, again, the business is healthier, it's more profitable, people are happier with less to manage.
So let's talk a little bit more about the marketing side of things, because I think that right now, just since we are going on a marketing journey and thinking of our audience here, when you encounter businesses that are struggling with revenue or getting new business, or maybe in their sales and marketing departments, or something of that nature, tell me a little bit more about some things that you might have suggested to them to help them, or maybe some success stories in that kind of arena or area.
Okay, well, again, I'm guilty as charged with my clients. I live in the same world. The problem, the challenge we have as humans is we think everyone knows what we do, what we make, what we sell. And the reality is, and I sit down and look at business owners and I say, look, your family knows, your employees know, your customers know, and a few of your neighbors know. And that's it.
Hmm.
And when you compare that number of people to how many people are alive on the planet, it's not a good number.
Right.
It's barely, you won't even make a percentage. Or I'll tell them, I'll say, let's go to a, busy traffic intersection where we live, and let's knock on windows of cars. And if somebody would roll down their window 1 inch, just say to them, have you ever heard of the XYZ company? And probably 99% of them are going to go, no.
Yeah, haven't heard.
So, now you step back and go, okay, what are my challenges here? And how do I get more people to understand what I make, what I produce, what service I provide? Do we have a tagline? Do we need a tagline? Where are we marketing? And we're creatures of habit. We get lazy. I work with a lot of generational businesses that go back to the 50s and the 60s
Yeah.
and the 70s. And they look at me and go, well, we've always done it that way. We're not going to change.
Right.
Well, there's a lot more people on the planet. There's a lot more generations. They buy differently. They think differently. They shop differently. It
Hmm.
still shocks me, Ray, when I ask somebody, I'll say, Ray, tell me about your competitors. And they start talking about companies within a 5-mile radius of their geographic location. And I'll say, what about the person that I found halfway around the world? They compete with you because of this thing called the internet. And they just gloss over and go like, should I be worried about that? Not all of them, not everyone. And to find a niche and be really good at it, I think myself, for my own business, for my book, for all my clients, I think in the age we live in, with the amount of technology we have and the resources we have, and the fact that 6-year-olds can Google anything like an adult, I think our number one job every day as marketers is just build top of mind awareness. We can no longer control when someone's going to want our product. We press hard, there's 3 copies. Those days have been over for 30 years. You get the pink, I get the yellow, corporate gets the white. People are so savvy. Most car shoppers know more about cars than car salespeople. So there's no more, convincing someone that they really need this. But when people wake up on a Thursday morning and go, hey, my heat's off and it's 20 degrees outside, who do I call? If there's an answer there, that company's done their job. But if there's not, that's a problem.
For sure.
So, sometimes I'll just say to people, let's make it that basic. How many people do you think of your business or would refer your business? Now, I'm dating myself here, but back in the day when people read things called phone books, I would challenge people and say, your job is to know someone in every category. Know an accountant, know a banker, know a caterer, know a dentist, know an electrician, and go through the whole alphabet. And can you spin those people that you know into your network and help your friends? Because let's all face it, we want to do business with people that we trust, people that we like, and hopefully people that have been vetted by somebody else so we don't have to spend our time doing that. And it's some of those things from a marketing perspective that I think, quite honestly, the world's gotten away from.
Yeah.
The world's gotten away from.
Well, and like you mentioned earlier, back in the day, it was a lot easier to market than it is now because we've got so many different channels that we're inundated with constantly. And so it's just trying to find the right channel and the right people is always if you can figure that out, then you're doing well.
Sure. And then you factor in the very extremely limited attention span of most adults and everyone's need for instant gratification. How do you get in there? How do you get into those 1,500 thoughts that cross somebody's mind every day and park and stay and remain? It's not easy. And probably like you, I'm on LinkedIn. I post probably 3 or 4 times a week. I think I have a decent presence there. And I'm constantly being bombarded by people who are going to help me take my business to Pluto, to the next universe. And I'm like,
constantly. Yep.
Who are these people?
Want to start a podcast but don't know where to begin? At Poderific, we don't just produce podcasts, we help you create auditory experiences that will captivate your audience. Our state-of-the-art podcast recording studio, powered by Peppershock Media, is designed for creators like you. Record with high-quality equipment supported by our expert team and distribute your podcast across major platforms like Apple and Spotify. Whether you're launching your first episode or you're a seasoned podcaster, we got you covered. Visit Poderific.com today to learn how we can help you produce, record, and share your story with the world. Your podcast deserves to be Poderific.
So, okay, just a little exercise here. Think back for the last few new clients that you received. How did you get them? Where did they come from? What referral source or what avenue, what kind of tactic did you take to get those new clients in your door?
Probably 95% of my business is referral. I got a call 2 weeks ago from somebody 3/4 of the way across the state. And he said, Larry, I can't remember who told me to call you, but I was told to call you. I'm like, perfect.
All right.
We'll figure it out. So referrals, number one, social media, number 2.
Okay.
And number 3 sometimes flips with number 2 is when I'm out speaking. I've been a professional speaker for decades. And typically, if I give a presentation somewhere, someone walks up to me at the end and says, can I take your card? I think I might need to talk to you about XYZ. Those pretty much are the 3 lanes where my business comes from. I try to be out physically networking at physical events at least 3 times a week. And again, just building top of mind awareness. My favorite question to ask people, including total strangers, including people that will never hire me, never hire
Mhm.
me. But I look at them and I say, hey, Ray, when I'm out there moving through my network, how do I
Mhm.
help you?
Yeah.
The scary
Yeah.
part is most people look at me and go, no one's ever asked me that before, which is
Right.
scary.
It's the
But
go-getter
that's what we're
mentality.
doing.
Like,
We're all
how can I
helping
help
each other
you?
out in this giant, glop of business world that we're in.
Right. Right. Well, hopefully people will take you up on that and say, "Here's how you can help me." Right? I mean, they give you kind of the lead into the ways that you can listen and give them the solutions that you may have for them. That's great. And it is a lost art sometimes. I think that people go to networking events just to play business card poker and pass out their cards to
Oh,
as many people as they can, and then it's just like oh, a feeling that's not always the best feeling when you can't have meaningful relationships or experiences that then give people the idea that they want to call you back and they want to follow up with you because you've given them that
and
lasting
you know what?
impression.
I've been in higher education 28 years. I've been a full-time staff member, full-time faculty member, adjunct, consultant, vendor, you name it. I've done it all in 28 years. And unfortunately, a lot of the schools, I think, teach the students the wrong thing. They teach them what you just said. Go out with 300 cards in your pocket and throw them against the wall and see what happens. I was just at an event, a state of the town event at one of the towns near my home where I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce. There were almost 400 people in the room. I had 4 conversations, but they
Mm-hmm.
were great conversations.
Right, right.
We exchanged information and we followed up with each other the same day. We know was running around like dealing like they were in Vegas with their
Yes.
business cards. But even that, I mean, I feel like I'm the only guy around anymore who's got business cards. Everyone's doing stuff on their phone. I'm like, no,
Right. The QR code. Yeah, I have a couple of
yeah,
those too. But sometimes there's just something to be said about something tangible in your hand that you can look at and remember and, the experience and the logo that you see. And then it's nice for follow-ups because then you have a business card, that you can, I have some here like that I can look at and, they're sitting on my desk and then I can,
absolutely.
oh yeah, I'm going to follow up it, and it does have that kind of trigger for you.
Absolutely. Yep. I think it's coming back though. I think I see it coming sort of full circle where, people are printing business cards again.
Yep, I think so too. Well, and ones that stand out, right? They might be a little different, or they might have, some sort of identifier that can make them a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. I suppose helps a little bit. I know when we
Absolutely.
put QR codes on my business card, see, so that way they still have something tangible, but then they can do the booking link, and it helps for people to be able to book time with me when it's appropriate.
That
But
makes total sense.
yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about who your ideal client really is. Like what would be your most ideal soulmate? This is the type of company, this is the type of person I love to work with.
As far as companies go, at the end of the day, and sometimes my wife says, how can you consult like a bank and a steel mill and a college and a carpet cleaning business? And they're so
Mhm.
different. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, they're not. It's
Mhm.
about profitability, people, policy, procedure, process. I call it the basket full of peas. And
Right.
they're either there and they're working or they're not there. And maybe they need to be created. But I don't think many people wake up as business owners going, I'm going to lose money today. Let's go get it.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it is about the financial piece. The scary thing is, I've been involved with the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership at the State University of New York at Buffalo for 19 years. And
Mhm.
every year we seat 40 business owners in a class, and a lot of them don't understand the financial part.
Mhm.
They have
Mhm.
passion, they have ideas, they have energy, they're working 50, 60, 70 hours a week. But when you talk to them about the financial piece, they're lost. So a lot
Mhm.
of times it's those types of things. Sweet spot for me is probably companies that have anywhere from 40 to 400 employees. Less than that, they usually don't have the resources or the time,
Time.
or they're
Mhm.
afraid to bring in somebody like you or somebody like me.
Mhm. Mhm.
More than 400, they're usually so big and they may or may not have internal resources that may or may not be doing their job, but there's so much red tape. It's
Mm.
hard to get
Mhm.
through that and to find the right people to deal with. As far as
Yeah.
individuals go, I've had the best luck with business owners who are just willing to step back and say, there's a lot of things I don't know about business. There's a lot of things I don't know about my own business. And I've had law firms as clients. I've mentioned earlier, I've had medical firms as clients. And I'll say to them in total respect, but tongue in cheek, I'll look at them and say, okay, in law school, Ray, how much business did you learn in law school? Oh, you
Unless
took
it's
one
business
course.
law, they don't teach them a whole lot in law school, I would imagine.
Oh, in med school, how much
Mhm.
business did they teach you? And they laugh and go, we have to figure it out ourselves. And that's a
Mhm.
problem.
Mhm.
That's a problem. The good news is a lot of schools are starting to realize that's a problem, and they're bringing in people like you and people like me to
Mhm.
kind of have a different sort of conversation with the students to
Right.
say, you might be a great surgeon,
Mhm.
but if you don't have money and you owe everyone, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
So my ideal owners to work with are the ones who are willing to listen, willing to entertain some different thoughts, willing to
Mhm.
be patient. Um, sometimes people call me up and go, hey, can we go to lunch and can you help me figure out our culture in like an hour? No,
No, it's time. It takes time.
it takes 24
Just
to
like I
36
say,
months on average.
I always say marketing is not a sprint, it's a marathon, right? It's a long game. And sometimes we're running a full marathon, the whole gamut, not just a little 5K or or anything. It does take time. You have to build it over time for sure. And
Yeah.
it's
And while you're
very
running the marathon, the weather keeps changing. So
I know. You might have a detour you might have to take along the
exactly.
way. Okay, so let's talk a little more about your book because I love the title, by the way. Yeah, and just share a little bit more about that and kind of the, if people were to pick it up and get it from you, what can they expect?
Well, I'm guilty as charged. I was a lazy procrastinator. Probably in my back of my brain for 10 years, I knew I wanted to write a book, but there are hundreds of thousands of business books on the market, and I just didn't want to write another one. And,
Mm-hmm.
when I look at my library in my home office, I've got decades worth of books that are all 250, 350 pages long that I stopped reading after chapter one or two. And I asked myself one day,
I'm
why did I
guilty of
stop
that
reading?
too. Yep.
And I think I stopped reading most of them because either they got really bad or really slow, or they just kept repeating what they said in the first two chapters with different
Mm-hmm.
words. So part of my goal was, can I read something? Because again, people want that instant gratification. They're pressed for time. Can I
Yeah.
write something short, sweet? And in my mind, I kind of said, I want to write sort of like a Who Moved My Cheese, which I think was an 88-page book.
Mm-hmm.
My book is 66 pages.
I can
And
tell
I
you.
thought, if somebody got on an airplane in Buffalo, New York, and was
Mhm.
going to fly to Florida, could they read my whole book cover to cover and be done before they landed? That was part of my goal.
That's perfect.
And I literally woke up one night like a movie at 3 a.m. and it was there. And I said, I'm going to write a book about the excuses I've heard from prospects and clients as to why they and their businesses aren't successful. So at
Mm.
3 a.m, I wrote down 13 excuses. I woke up the next day. I ranked them sort of in which ones I hear the most, which is we tried that once. And then I dedicated one chapter of the book to each excuse. So people would look at me and go like, well, 13 chapters, that's an unlucky number. I'm like, I think it's a really lucky number. It was there. Um,
Nice.
and at the end of every chapter, I have take action tips. There are 106 take action tips in the book
Nice.
to
Nice.
either not get into the excuse cycle or break out of it or not perpetuate a culture where excuses are tolerated. And I always say to people, if I'm pretty sure at least one of the 106 are going to resonate with you. I'm not sure which
Mhm.
one, but one of
Right.
them will.
Nice.
And every time I talk to people about the book, they usually laugh out loud and say, yeah, welcome to my world. And it's either their business world or their personal world. The book can
Uh-huh.
really be interpreted either way. We all make excuses in our personal lives. No time to
Mhm.
exercise, no time for this, no money, no blah, blah, blah. But it's really aimed at business people. Um, and so I guess the good news is I started writing the book. I only wrote when I had thoughts. I never forced myself like I'm going to write Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 4. No. If something came to me, I could be out walking with my daughter and my wife. And if something came to me, I would just take notes on my phone. I got a little bit scared because literally for 3 months, I didn't write a word. I was just tapped out. And then COVID hit and I had some extra time in my hands
Right.
and I just kind of got refocused and was able to finish the book.
Nice.
And
Such a good relief when you get to finally finish the book that you've been working on for a really long time.
you
Where
know
the
what?
sense
And,
you
and,
are
and kudos
finally
to my publisher.
got it done.
When I told my publisher I was finished, he said, I'm going to ask you one question. Do you like it? And I said, no, I don't like it. I said, I actually love it.
Oh, good.
And he said, then don't write another word. He said, because if you only liked it, I'd make you go back and make it better. He said, but if you think it's there, then I'm going to trust that you think it's ready. And, I asked 25 people to read it, sort of pre-press. I got feedback from about 15 of them, and some of that some of it was great feedback.
Right.
And, I think you can relate to this. Learning the publishing world and the writing world was one thing. Marketing the book, whole nother animal. And as an author, you're pretty much out there on your own. And I knew that on day one. My publisher said, "Look, I don't market for you, with you. That's on you." So, finding the places like your show, thank you very much, where I can talk about the book, posting online, and sometimes I meet a prospect, a consulting prospect, and they don't want to hire me. And I'll say, look, do yourself a favor, spend $25, at least buy the book. Because something in there is going to flip a switch for you, and you're going to take some action that's going to put you in a better place than you are today. Very often when I speak all over the country. People will come up and say, how do I get your book? And a lot of people ask me if I'm going to write another book. I might someday, but I think this book has so much more it can do before we get there.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, that's definitely something I've heard over and over again from clients. Oh, well, we've tried that once, but did you do something to, stop, start, keep, or tweak to get something more done better? You might have tried something, but maybe there was something that you could have tweaked or invested in or thought of or done that could have gotten you there. So that way you're not just trying it for once, it's something that becomes ingrained and a part of your process and all of that. Yeah. And I, I can't wait to hear all of the 13 excuses that, people have said and read that in your book. Can you just give me just one, give us a little teaser of the one excuse that comes to mind right away that people say that why their business can't succeed or hasn't succeeded?
Oh, well, and sometimes it's detrimental to the business, but the second chapter is called "No One Will Notice." Oh, no one's going to notice.
Right.
We'll put less cereal in the box. We'll put less gas in the tank. We won't polish the new car. We'll close 15 minutes early. No one's going to notice. Yeah.
Right. It's all those little things that add up.
And they notice, and then they go on social media and blow up your business. So
it can happen. It can happen for sure. Well, I love that. Well, Larry, how can people reach out to you if they need your services and also want to buy your books?
Oh, my book's available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. So if they go to Amazon and just type in my name or type in "We Tried That Once," they'll find it. The book's available in hardcover and ebook. If people just Google my name, Larry Mietus, or if they Google Leadership Larry, or if they Google Chief Excuse Obliterator, you will find me. I'm pretty populated, on the first 5 pages of Google search. After 15 years of marketing every day. So it's not hard to find me. And I promise people, if you text me, call me, email me, I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. When I speak in public, I tell people, look, if you don't need me or you have a thought or a question, but it's 10 years from now, reach out to me. I will respond unless I'm deceased. But other than that, I plan on responding. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. I have fun with what I do. I like other people to be happy, successful, thriving, and have them pay it forward. I love working with entrepreneurs and having them teach the next generation of entrepreneurs and leaders what mistakes not to make, hopefully.
Right. Yeah, what not to do.
Right.
Yep, I get that. Well, thank you so much, Larry. Really appreciate having you on the show today.
My pleasure, Ray. Thank you, and I wish you wild success.
Yes. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you can do is share this with others that you know that need to hear what Larry had to say today. And give us a review, because that helps make sure that everybody else gets to see it. It helps build our ranking and all of those wonderful things. Our goal is to go from a top 5% most popular podcast to a top 1%. So all of you listening need to help us make that happen. That would be amazing. Right, Larry?
Absolutely. It takes a little bit of effort. Just tell a friend, share, and the snowball rolls down the hill.
Yeah, talking about accelerating word of mouth referrals, right? There you go.
That's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, enjoy your marketing journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.